Would he behave differently if the person asking for the dollar was 7 years old?
I would want to know the same thing from the 7-year-old as the 60-year-old or the 30-year-old. I want to know what they're doing in the street. To give a 7-year-old $1, you can't even buy a bologna sandwich.
He's asking the wrong question. He's asking
to give the dollar or the $10 and then walk away feeling he's done something seems to me begging the major issue of what's a 7-year-old doing on the street? What's a homeless person doing there? And it's all of us giving our dollars and our quarters and our thises and our that make us go home and sleep nights.
Yeah, but the 7-year-old can't eat the major issue. The 7-year-old can eat a box of Special K if you give him the money.
I agree with Dr. Galen. The larger question is, do we change the society and make an investment? I don't know that that 7-year-old child doesn't have a perfectly fine home and doesn't have food to eat, that may simply want to go out and panhandle. Or whether we have a society that assures a decent living and a decent standard for all of its citizens.
But you're willing to
I don't see that there's any contradiction between the idea that society undertakes certain obligations to look after its members who cannot look after themselves for one reason or another, and private charity. I think, Dr. Galen, it is time for you to give up your prepubescent Marxist notion. I remember it very well from my own prepubescence, the idea that private charity is somehow bad news. I think the loss of the notion of people actually, you, a living person, handing over something of substance to him, another living person, the loss of this idea is a terrible loss.
Is that your definition of private charity? Handing over a buck, or to take Mr. Levy, maybe he doesn't earn that much, 50 cents to the hungry person next to you?
It was the excuse you gave for not giving money, you said, because charity is in principle a bad idea.
No, I did not say all sorts of private charities to which I give time, money, and effort. I find the quick buck on the street serves the vanities and the needs of the bourgeois person who's walking down the street and doesn't solve a damn thing except allows you to go home at night and say how swell you are, as compared with Dr. Galen, who's a stingy miser and is not giving anything to private.
In this day and age, it saves lives. Now, you got to hear what I'm saying to you. I'm telling you that it saves lives. Well, it may not save a lot, it may not save as many as we want, but it saves lives. It prevents homes from being vandalized, but it also does more than that. It also causes us to recognize that there is some sense in each one of us being challenged to do something ourselves and not ask the person to whom we give, what are you going to do with the money, but asking those who have so much, how is it that I got so much of this and this person doesn't have any?
Well, I can tell you one about your life saving. I was at the station on 125th Street from which I commute. A 17 or 18-year-old boy who's a regular there came up to me and asked me for his usual $1. I didn't give it. He went up to about a 62-year-old woman, probably a cleaning woman, and he said to her, "Give me a couple of bucks." And she opened up her purse and she gave him a couple of bucks.
That's right.
And then she started shaking and getting teary and said, you'd think a boy that age could get a job somewhere. And I said, "Why did you give the money? Why did you give the money?" She said, "Sure, you don't have to give the money. You're white and you're big, etc. But I'm afraid if you weren't here and I didn't give the money, he'd push me off the platform, he'd take it." So you're saying, if I understand your ethical philosophy, give the money so the boy doesn't push her off the platform?
Exactly.
Is that your moral message?
Give the money so the boy doesn't push her off the platform. Because, and if she recognizes that if she hadn't given the money, and even in the midst of giving the money, she may have been pushed off the platform. But there is something that I can do immediately until I run out of money.
But we're also asking too much of this problem. Because we cannot immediately solve all national problems of poverty, we feel paralyzed. And it strikes me that it's good for us on occasion to do things which are not cost efficient, which are not even guaranteed effective, but somehow express commonality.
But there are people who will fall through the cracks otherwise, who without our individual help on the street won't live, simply won't live. And it seems to me that if we know that those people exist and they can't eat without getting a quarter, 50 cents or whatever from us, then we have to help them.
I'd rather help run a soup kitchen than depend on that dollar that I give away.
But there's no contradiction in helping to run the soup kitchen and seeing a mother and 2 children on the subway who don't have a place to sleep that night and are going back and forth on the and the woman says to you, I'm hungry, and handing her $10. There's no contradiction between concerted, organized social action and the individual acts which some of us make.
Justice Scalia, one final issue. The homeless person followed you home, and she likes it so much she's there every day. And, you know, you come out in the morning and said, hi, got another $1 for me? And sometimes you give and sometimes you don't. But there's a problem. There's a tenants association meeting tonight because your tenants aren't too pleased with your new friend. She is very belligerent. She's aggressive with the tenants during the day. At night, she sleeps behind the apartment building in the alley. She defecates. She sleeps on a piece of cardboard. She burns money. And the tenant association is meeting tonight, and they want to take a vote. We want to call to have the police remove this homeless person from our apartment building.
Just have the cops take?
They'll take care of it. It's their problem. It's no longer the apartment building's problem.
No, I wouldn't go along with just that without looking to see that something is going to happen to take care of this woman.
Dr. Galen, how would you vote?
I think I'd go along with Judge Scalia on this. I don't know what I'm giving that woman by allowing her there defecating or I don't know what I'm giving her. I also am one of a minority, shrinking minority of psychiatrists who feel that there is such a thing as mental illness and that there are people who are as irresponsible in a certain way as children are. And while I would hate to call the police, what we have been driven to by those fervent defenders of civil liberties and autonomy is that we dare not call them sick. So the alternative to taking them into a facility where they can be treated is to send them to jail.
Mr. Levy?
Well, I think it's interesting that Dr. Galen assumes that this person is mentally ill. And if the solution to her housing problem is to call the police, I think we're barking up the wrong tree. If she hasn't committed a crime and she's not dangerous to other people, not harming other people, I don't think that the police have the right to remove her.
She's a blight to the neighborhood. We are saying it's uncomfortable for us to have to walk by and deal with her every day asking for money.
Well, it should be uncomfortable to us. But we shouldn't try to hide our social problems in jails or in mental hospitals.
But is she schizophrenic? Is it not? Have you not considered the possibility that she is? If it's not proper to put them in hospitals, I don't know what it is proper to do with them.
But don't we have 2 questions here? First, when society can permissibly intervene to take someone off the street? And I would draw the line at when someone either commits a crime or is dangerous. And secondly, how can we help that person? And the way to help that person so far has not been to lock people up in mental hospitals because often there aren't places for them to go afterwards.
But you were prepared to protect the infant. Why won't you protect the infantile, regressed adult? I never claimed all of them were sick. I will allow that some. I will tell you my biases is at most. Why is it that you would prefer their freezing to death in the streets?
If she is in medical danger, yes, you can do something about her. But I don't think we should automatically assume that anyone who lives on the street is crazy. In fact, many homeless people think that to live in the city shelters in some cities is crazy. The problem is that they don't have reasonable alternatives.
Father Hare, have we established any kind of set of ethical priorities in making these decisions?
I don't know that they're easily summarized. I think in every case you played out all afternoon, there was a presumption of a bond among the actors. I think there were, all the way running through was a sense that you neither want to try to institutionalize every moral responsibility we have, nor do we want to leave the whole world an open space where people come to recognize their moral responsibilities or don't do anything. That the middle ground we're trying to find is the place at which you can institutionalize those responsibilities that basically I would call public order. But then beyond that minimal public order, you really are dependent upon trying to shape people's moral responsibilities so they will respond to human needs when they don't have to by law, but when they ought to by moral responsibility. And in that kind of society, I think you've hit the balance between public and private that you'd like.
Hubert Humphrey once said that the ethical test of a society is how it treats those who are in the dawn of life, the children, those who are in the twilight of life, the aged, and those who are in the shadows of life, the sick and the needy, and we could add, the homeless. As Father Hare suggested, it's difficult sometimes to balance society's obligation to care for its members against our own personal duty to give help and comfort to those around us. Next week, we follow the ethics of lawyers and judges through a hypothetical murder case. When a client's life hangs in the balance, is everything fair game? Try to join us.